Hi guys! In this video I'm going to talk about some of my favorite ways to add texture to my wood burning art. Now I have my wood burning unit already off to the side, plugged in, ready to go. I will be using my stippling nib or my ballpoint nib to get started, and right now my starting temperature is at an 8. So I might have already given it away, but one of my favorite textures is stippling. I really like to use this nib to do big dark dots that are touching each other to fill in an area. I like to use stippling in a way that is very bold, so a lot of the times I will use it in contrast with light colored areas, or like maybe I will use this texture to fill in the eye of a flower or something. But I really love the physical feeling of it. It's just super fun. I like the look of it. I think that it's super fun, but maybe if you have trypophobia or something, maybe that's not fun for you, but I really like it. So I like to use this a lot. Another thing you can do is called walking the dots. Have you ever seen the people who do painted dot mandalas where they use dots of different sizes to like make a painted mandala? It's kind of the same thing but with wood burning. For me, walking the dots means I will start my very first dot as super dark and big, and then as I walk them away they will get smaller and lighter. So this is what I mean. Again, you start by kind of like touching down on the wood for a split second longer than you would the rest of the dots, and you just kind of go faster and you touch the wood lighter as you move away. And I think that that is a really fun thing. I like to do this in my negative space. Sometimes I like to do this on whatever it is, like a mushroom cap or something. Like, it's just a pattern that I like to use. So that is another good way that I like to add texture to my wood burnings. Another thing that I like to do is a stippled gradient. Let me grab my pencil. Like, I just kind of quickly sketched out a little box, and I'm gonna do a gradient of stippling. What I'm looking for are for my dots to get smaller, lighter, and more spread out as I move away from the darkest area of my stipples to get a gradient. But I like to swap out this nib halfway through for my writing style nib, because that gives me extra small dots, and I really like when they blend together. I just think it's really fun. I start with really dark stippling. Okay, so this is the darkest area, wherever I would want the darkest shadow to be on whatever it is that I'm doing. There is no space between these dots. They are touching, they are overlapping. It's giving me a really nice solid fill. Okay, so now that I am moving into this part, this third, I am going to start adding a little bit more space. And bring out the gradient. And then as I move closer to the edge of this, see, like now I'm kind of in halfway of this third. As I move into this second half, I am touching faster, I'm touching the wood faster, and that's gonna give me smaller dots. And then of course I like to kind of blend them, so it's not a harsh division of this is where the dark dots stop and this is where the small dots start. So I'm just kind of overlapping them a little bit. And now this is where I will swap out this nib for my writing nib. And comparatively, you can see that the point of my writing nib here is much smaller. I do have to turn the temperature down because it is such a small point. It'll burn really fast, so I'm gonna turn my temperature down to like a 5.5. And I am going to start where my gradients, I overlapped them. So like my small dots here, my large dots here, and I kind of blended them together. This blended area is where I'm gonna start again. So that is a stippling gradient. Larger, darker, more compact dots up here, smaller, more spread out, lighter dots up there, and then you just want to blend them together so they are seamless. Another way to get really nice bold texture is to do bold line work. For example, this sunflower here, I have bold texture in the physical outlines of my petals, whereas the inside of my petals are very thin, crispy lines. That is produced by two different nibs. So my thick outlines here I did with my burnishing nib, and the thin inside petal lines were done with this nib. These two nibs give totally different kinds of lines, and I like to use this one, the burnishing nib, to get thick, bold lines because they have a physical texture to them. They're deep, they are indented in the wood, and when you rub your hands over them, you can feel them, and they're very prominent. So having bold line work in and of itself is a great way to add texture. One of the ways I add it's more of an implied texture. I don't know, it's line work. So like, let's say that this is like, I don't know, the stem of a mushroom right here, okay? I like to add a variety of line work to give the impression of shadow and of depth without adding realistic shading, okay? So let me just actually start off with wood burning the edges. Actually, hold on, let me go back and switch to my burnishing nib because this is a great example for showing you the contrast of the two lines when they work together. So I'm just going to go back over these lines real quick. Back to the skew nib. It's giving ruler right now, but just give it a minute. So I just added a lot of fun line work kind of texture to this area. And yeah, it has a physical feeling to it, but I think more than anything, it is more bold visually than physically. So I like to do this a lot with a lot of my pieces because I have a very line work heavy style. I don't do a lot of realism, so I don't do a lot of shading, or I guess realistic shading. I don't do shading gradients where you go from really dark to really light. Like, I like bold line work. It's kind of cartoony. I don't know, it's just my style. So anyway, that's something that I do a lot with this kind of line work. So those are some of my recommendations. These are 5 different ways to add texture, add visual interest, and add some contrast to some of your wood burning pieces. If you have any questions about anything, always feel free to drop them below in the comments. While you're at it, please like and subscribe if you want more wood burning content in your feed. And yeah, I think that's it. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Bye.